Hello friends, in this particular episode we will see how to practice in media laws, and for this we have with us Advocate Saveena Bedi Sachar. We will hear from her what is media law, what is the practice, what kind of codes are there. So first of all, Madam, thank you very much for sparing your time for this.
Completely my pleasure.
Uh, can you tell us, ma'am, what is really meant by media laws?
Media law is basically contractual law and intellectual property law. So, contractual law, is basically law of contracts, because I always tell all my clients that your product is your contract, your product is your paperwork. Okay, because basically intellectual property is all intangible property.
Correct.
So, you cannot, like for example, I had a client some days back who was claiming that his film has been infringed, and when I asked him for the paperwork, he didn't have proper paperwork to show that he owned that film or he owned all the works in that film, which is the script, the story, the screenplay. So he said, but this is my product. So it was running somewhere on YouTube. So I told him, now look, your product is on YouTube, you cannot touch it. Anyone can come and say, but if you had your correct papers, then you could have shown through the papers and through your contracts how you owned everything. If you had registered your story, your script as a copyright with the copyright board, with the copyright office, you would have had a proper copyright certificate. Had you registered your title as a trademark, you would have owned the title. So basically, media law is a combination of intellectual property and the Contract Act. That is how I would summarize media law. And of course, in India, laws are interconnected. There are certain rights which you inherit. There is, there may be some fundamental rights, or there may be elements of other rights. Copyright has elements of criminal law in it, because copyright can be prosecuted under the criminal. Copyright infringement can be a criminal offense as well as a civil offense.
Okay.
So obviously then IPC comes in, but that's like any law, it is linked and related to other laws. But if you want to summarize, it's basically contractual law and intellectual property law.
Okay, so it's a bunch of these two laws which make the media
which is
laws.
the crux. Yes, it is the crux of media law.
Okay. Now, when we are talking about media laws and the contracting, just now you said that the person need not have a proper contract. That is what I want to ask you now, ma'am, that whether because of these growing industries, maybe in Bombay, Chennai, Calcutta, everywhere, how much is contracting genuinely done between not only artists but technicians also?
So basically we call them cast and crew contracts. Okay. So there are two divisions in that. There is something known as above the line and below the line, especially when it comes to films. In TV series and all, it's different, but if you differentiate between above the line would be your lead artists, your actors, your director, your writer. So basically they are the ones who charge a higher fee, and below the line would be the rest of the crew members. So yes, when we take up work for a film, okay, there are other contracts also, like the investor contracts, people who are investing into the contract, into the film, to make the film or to produce the film. Then there are studio or platform contracts, where an OTT platform or a studio, they may either invest or come acquire the IP even before the production of the cinematographic film, because cinematographic film as per the Copyright Act is any audio visual work, unlike what it sounds like, that it's just a full length film which earlier used to be released on theaters. Now people go on OTT as well. So basically there are a whole group of people, or there is an entire cast and crew along with the producers and the investors who actually make the film. So if you ask me whether the technicians, there are contracts, so technicians starts from a DOP, okay, a DOP or a director of photography, in easier words, a cameraman. He is very important for making the film, and he also creates IP. So technicians are also divided into two parts: one, people who are creating IP, and two, who are just giving service. It may be just a daily service, it may be a caterer, it may be someone who is just setting up the set, it may be a light man, it may be this thing. So everyone has a specific function. So maybe, anyone who creates IP will transfer that IP to, or will have to record in writing, it will have to be recorded in writing that that IP is owned by the producer.
Okay.
Right. So that can only be done through a contract. So yes, the very serious players or companies conducting this business make sure that they have all contracts in place. There are newer producers, first time producers, who feel that, why don't we just use templates from here and there, or why don't we just get it done through an invoice or something. So as long as it is someone, who is giving a service where there is no IP that is coming out, that can work, and that can they can get away without a contract for that. Okay. But anywhere where an IP is coming in, yes, people do make contracts, and people do take contracts very seriously, unless they themselves are not very serious companies and are just making the film, like, by just collecting money from here and there, trying their level best just to put that project together. So sometimes, people feel that it is an investment to even invest in those contracts, which is according to me very important. But yes, sometimes people do it without contracts, they suffer also.
Okay.
I recently, someone was telling me about a very well-known actor, and the producer was telling me that they made a film with the actor, and they forgot, or they must have used some templates which were available on the net or something, and there was no clause for dubbing
Okay.
in that contract.
Okay.
So the actor refused to come for dubbing. He went and released some other films, and he did some other films, and this producer's film got delayed by 3 years because he was trying to convince the actor ki, okay, it's not written in the contract, but please come. Of course, this is not something which a professional actor would ideally do. Maybe that actor had his prior commitments, or there must be another side to the story which I don't know. But things like this happen. Like, I got a call from a producer some time back who said, he had taken certain rights to make a film from someone, like on some life rights or certain rights he had taken. And there is one section 19(4) which says that, if certain rights are assigned to you and you don't utilize them within a period of 1 year, then the rights can lapse.
Okay.
So the waiver of that section 19(4) wasn't there. His project had got approved for funding or for investment and for acquisition by a very, very huge studio, and they cancelled the entire plan to make that film because he could not get an amendment with that missing section 19(4). So that's the importance of contracts.
Okay. Now, one more thing is, since you are also consultant to certain associations, so regarding that, I would like to ask you, number one, that whether it is mandatory for any technician or actor to be a member of the concerned association. This is the first question.
So till some years back there was a agreement between, so associations are divided into two parts. One is the producers, okay, so they are basically the employers, okay, and then there are workmen. So in workmen there are like writers, directors, actors, everyone apart from producers. So we call them about, there are about 24 crafts is the word
Okay.
which we use. So action directors, so all these people, they come into workmen. So workmen need not necessarily be just a spot boy or a lightman or this thing.
Okay.
Even writers, directors. So it's divided into producers and workmen. Okay,
Okay.
so there are about 4 associations of producers, okay, which is the Producers Guild. There is IFTPC, which has more of TV producers as their members, television, satellite, these programs which come on satellite and television. There is IMPA, and there is WIPFA, WIPFA.
Okay.
So these are the 4 producer associations.
Okay.
Then there are these 24 crafts where each set of professionals, for like actors have their own association called SINTA, writers have SWA, which is Screenwriters Association, directors have their own association, lightmen have their own association. So like this, everyone, all every craft has its own association, and they have a mother body which is FICE, Federation of Western India Cine Employees.
Okay.
SINTA is now associated with some international organizations, some international associations. So they may not necessarily be associated with FICE.
Okay.
So now why I gave all this history was that till some time back there was a agreement between these producer associations and FICE,
Okay.
okay, which said that, which stipulated that these parties of, I mean, anyone from a producer, a member of a producer association should work with a member of someone who is party to these associations whose mother body is FICE.
Okay.
Okay, the idea was to basically have joint decisions if someone was not paying, if there was a dispute.
Okay.
For example, if a producer is not refusing to pay a writer or an actor or a director, okay, so each individual could first approach their own association. So like suppose we take an example of a writer, okay, so the writer will approach their own association like the SWA and tell them that so and so producer is being unfair to me, is infringing my work, or is not paying me. And then the writer association would issue a letter to the so called producer, or the whoever is the producer who is not against whom the complaint is filed, and the producer will may or may not agree to come.
Okay.
Like the producer may just say that I am not your member, why should I
Yeah.
cooperate with you, I will not cooperate. So then the SWA, could, or the writers association or the artists association, wherever the complaint has gone, we are talking about a writer's complaint, so we will continue with SWA.
Yeah.
So the writer association could then approach the producer association where the producer is a member
Okay.
and say that, listen, this, your producer is not listening to us or whatever. If the producer is still not listening, or they cannot meet common terms, then the complaint would go to FICE,
Okay.
which is the mother body. Now the mother body, that is the mother body only of the workers, which I explained could
Yeah.
include writer, director, everything. So the mother body would then call the producers association, and they would have a joint JDSC, that is a joint dispute settlement committee. They would
Okay.
have a committee, and they would then pass an order jointly. Okay.
Okay.
So if the order goes against a producer, or if it goes against one of the workmen, whoever is the complainant, and they don't adhere to that order, then there would be something known as non-cooperation. That is, no one in this association, in these none of the members will work with that producer,
Okay.
or will work with that workman who has committed the default.
Okay.
But more often than not, the producers would be the one who are suffering, because
Okay.
the producer, I mean, if an entire cast and crew refuse to work with that producer, where will that producer go?
Exactly.
And if he's in the middle of a shooting, or if this dispute happens in the middle of shooting a film, or while the production is on, then that much amount also gets stuck.
Correct.
And there are cascading effects where investors and all of them can
Yeah.
also file cases against this producer. So ultimately, the producers, one of the producers decided to go to the Competition Commission of India and say that this agreement is anti-competitive. Okay. And you cannot, I mean, these type of agreements should not exist.
Okay.
And thereafter, mandatorily, earlier, although there was no mandate as per law, but people used to become members. I mean, obviously now also they become members, but the intent was that we can do this non-cooperation and all of this, and plus that agreement said that we will work with your members and you will work with our members,
Okay.
between FICE and the producers. Okay. So obviously then people would ask, the producers would ask, do you have an association card or this thing? But after this judgment came, as of now there is no I mean, it's anti-competitive, it's held to be anti-competitive to do have this non-cooperation and to insist on member to member working.
Okay.
Okay. So for their own benefit, yes, they become party to, I mean, everyone joins their own association. A lot of writers join the writers association. Similarly, directors join the directors association, actors join the CINTA. But there is no mandate as of now that if you're not a member, then
Okay.
the other side won't work with you. There's no mandate as of now.
Okay.
But associations are beneficial because for example, CINTA, they have benefits like their own, if suddenly some member expires, or he's not well or something, they give some sort of support. If
Okay.
if payments are stuck, they do help. This thing, they have their own lawyers on their panel.
Okay.
So the lawyers help.
Okay.
More often than not, I am also on the panel of lot of associations, so I also help.
Okay. Okay.
So that's the benefit of it, but there's no mandate.
Okay. Ma'am, you said they jointly decide the dispute, whatever the dispute is. I just wanted to ask that while resolving this particular dispute, uh, what kind of a procedure is adopted? Like, it is neither an arbitration nor how do you resolve it? Can you just let us know?
So as of now, most of the associations have their own dispute settlement committees.
Okay.
Okay. So like for example, if an actor files a complaint with CINTA saying that this XYZ producer is not paying my dues, okay, so CINTA would start writing letters to them and to the producers, okay, whosoever it is, or to the studio. Why only producers? To studios, to broadcasters, to OTT platforms, wherever the money is stuck. and ask them that why aren't you paying, or they would, they would study the documents and help. As I said, lawyers like me are on the panels of these associations, so papers come to us, we study them, we advise them. Okay, so at times we work with producers also. Okay, so what happens is they help sending mails, papers, saying why are you doing this with our with our members, or whatever. They study that case, they make lawyers on their panel study, and they send appropriate communication to the
Okay.
other side. They have their own committee, you know so where if the producer is willing to cooperate and is come up front and trying to resolve that matter, or trying to discuss the matter, then these committees, each association has their committee. They will sit with the complainant and the other side, and they will try to resolve this matter. As
Okay.
in, like, they'll hear both sides and try to resolve. Of course, it doesn't have legal binding. I saw one association in Calcutta, okay, which is not really associated to FICE or to these four producer associations. They are called EIMPPA, okay,
Okay.
and I was very impressed by their the way they are conducting. I'm not very sure, it's the oldest association, because it's there since around 1945.
Oh.
So I've got hold of their AOA and MOA, and I'm trying to study, because they have a proper arbitration procedure.
Okay.
Like, their dispute settlement, so they ensure that their members, or they ask their members to have a proper arbitration clause naming IMPA,
Okay.
and their and agreeing that if there is a dispute, arbitration will be held by IMPA, in Kolkata, through their arbitrators.
Okay.
Okay, and they have the IMPA has the right to decide who the arbitrator will be. So
Okay.
it really, you don't need a basically, you don't need to go to court to fix an arbitrator, you don't need a section 11 petition, you don't need, really, because everything is there in their contract, and their decisions have effect in law.
Okay.
Okay, they are recognized under, they have a proper arbitration under the Indian Arbitration Act,
Okay.
and they give decisions, and they are a group of people who understand this film and media industry. So what happens is, like, they would have one lawyer who maybe knows IP, or they would have someone who's been a filmmaker. Like, their panel has people from the industry.
Okay.
So it does help in understanding. They're faster, I would say. Like, our courts are very fast in understanding. I'm not this thing, but there here what happens is that even if the decision comes and the other party does not agree to it, till the time non cooperation was there, it was valid and as per that contract being enforced. I mean, okay, there was some mischief at times or whatever, but till the time it was there, at least that fear of facing a non cooperation was there. Right now that is also not there. So if the other party, uh, whosoever, against whomsoever that decision may go, they, if they don't agree to what the our associations say,
Yeah.
then uh, we need to start from point zero,
Okay.
from the starting point in court.
Okay.
But there is, this is a very very valid question, there is a huge need to have arbitrations which can be enforced, and this network of associations which has existed for years in in the film, I can't call it an industry, because this doesn't have, we don't have the status of an industry, but in the film business, in Mumbai or in Maharashtra, there is a need to have these sort of arbitrations through the associations, because that would become much faster. It will decrease the burden on the courts.
Mm-hmm.
of, of course, for appeals you will have to go to court,
Yeah.
but you will have gone much faster. And second thing is, the problem with films is the more delay, like if a film gets stuck in litigation, and the more delay, the more, the if there is an injunction or if there is something, it's good for the party who has asked for the injunction, but ultimately that film dies because that concept, it doesn't is not relevant anymore, or maybe they've shot some part of it and now those actors, the look has changed, or something. So a delay in the filmmaking business is the end of that film.
Okay.
So
Madam, now I have just now you have been talking about, so that shows that there are internal procedures between the associations themselves. Do you think that there is a requirement of any kind of a special tribunal for this, because the way in which the whole business is growing today, because earlier, okay, it was only films, now there are multiple platform, web series, there lot of things are there. So do you think there is a requirement of a special tribunal to be created for these disputes, at least for appeal from your associations, so the high court doesn't get burdened directly?
um, see, basically a special tribunal for this, um, I, I don't know if there is so much litigation in this field. There is a lot, okay, but to have a specific tribunal for this, I think we should first start with this arbitration should be brought in a bigger way, and maybe these committees of these associations should be used to have effective arbitration. Right now we have not even reached that stage,
Okay.
so a tribunal, yes, there could be a tribunal with specialized people who understand this field, or who understand media, who understand IP. There could be a tribunal, because sometimes there are some problems which I don't know about the burden of the High Court, but I know, because certain things do get delayed and certain things not. But although we have a very good system of injunctions which help people compromise and finish it, because
Correct.
once you get an injunction, it mostly ends in a
Yeah,
compromise,
yeah,
mostly. So sometimes, yes, people have to litigate for years to get their legitimate damages and this thing. A tribunal, basically there can be a committee which solves problems, like now if writers go to the court, okay, so the courts really don't have the time to sit and compare scripts, or sit and compare a script with a film, okay, or worse still, if it's a television program, no, you can't if someone goes after 10 episodes are over or 15 episodes are over, we can't expect judges to sit with the script and then look at every episode and see what
Correct.
is happening, or even to burden them with comparing scripts is a little unfair,
Correct.
and that's also a problem that happens,
Okay.
because if you go to court, then you are expecting them, okay, now you read this script, you read this script. So maybe we need a committee who at least does this assessment, and that assessment is recognized by the court,
Okay.
okay, a panel of experts. I think that is one thing which looks like a very small problem, but it's a very big problem.
Correct. You're
Okay,
correct.
okay. So how do you explain, uh, you know you can explain, but the judge also should be able to comprehend. Maybe if two films are there and one says, okay, this, or maybe a book and a film, you can still compare, but sometimes it becomes very tedious and very difficult to compare scripts with scripts with television programs, scripts with films, you know.
Okay.
So all these issues are there, and they can be solved. I feel as of now, if arbitration comes in as a big way,
Okay.
in a big way,
Yeah.
that would, the next step can be a tribunal,
Okay.
but the first step should be to bring in arbitration in a proper
Proper
way.
manner. Another thing is the existing IP law, because contract act is at one place, as we have previously said, it's a combination of contract and IP laws. Being in this practice, ma'am, do you feel the IP laws which are there right now are well sufficient to deal with the practical problems which arose in the entire this films or serials, or in the practical basis? Are they really helpful to you in resolving, or there are some issues?
So basically, as far as titles go, it's trademarks. So I think the Trademark Act is evolved enough to help, people protect their titles. Okay, but the other major act which needs to be complied with in the media industry is, and then again, it's not really a industry, media business, is copyright. Okay,
Okay.
if we all know that a few years back in 2012 there were some major amendments to the Copyright Act to bring in royalties to be paid to writers, artists, musicians, uh, you know. So I think there is a need to make those royalty related laws, which is a part of the Copyright Act, stricter, stronger. Okay, if we see, at that time the major discussion was royalties for writers, but till date we do not have a copyright society for writers
Okay.
which collects royalty. 2008, we are in 2022, and it was in May 2000 and not 2008, 2012, we are in 2022.
10 years.
Yeah, and around May 2012 is when it had come.
Okay.
So, or when people really got to know about the act and this thing, and till date we don't have a society, even a society formed for it.
So who will collect
So
it?
who will collect it, who will, there are reasons, there are other reasons why, but that's not really legal, I mean, but there are issues where there are set of people who don't want this to happen.
Okay.
There are set of people whose livelihood is dependent on that set of people who don't want that royalty collection to come in. So these type of practical issues are there.
Okay.
But yes, so there is a need for certain amendments. People have also taken benefit, people in this business have also taken benefit of the lacunae or certain words that were used in that amendment to ensure that this doesn't happen. So I think vis-a-vis royalty, there is a need for an amendment. Vis-a-vis the rest of the act, I think our courts have given very good judgments,
Okay.
from the Bombay High Court, the Supreme Court, the Delhi High Court. There are some very good judgments which can be relied upon to interpret that act.
Okay.
And the act read with those judgments, I think is clear enough.
Okay. Uh, what are the criminal offences in this particular entire Copyright Act or infringement? Are there any criminal offences?
Yes, Copyright Act, and there was a recent judgment which said that if there is an infringement of copyright, then there can be criminal action,
Okay.
and it is a part of the Copyright Act itself.
Okay.
So yes, there are copyright infringement itself is not only a civil offense, it's a criminal offense as well.
Okay. So it can be.
Yes, you can prosecute it under IPC, and you can under CRPC, you
Okay.
can read with the Copyright Act.
Okay, okay. I would like to ask you, are there any criminal offences mentioned in the Copyright Act?
So, infringement is a criminal offense. Uh, Section 63 of the Copyright Act, okay, it it clearly provides that copyright infringement, if someone carries out an act of copyright infringement or an offense of copyright infringement, there can be a criminal, it can be registered as a criminal offense triable by the Metropolitan Magistrate
Oh,
courts.
okay. A very question from a common person, that while seeing some ad, at times people get uncomfortable. They feel no, this should not be shown. So, is there any remedy? Is there any association to whom these people can go?
Yeah, so there's an association called ASCII,
Hmm.
Advertising Standards Council of India. It
Okay.
has also been recognized by the Department of Consumer Affairs. It has been,
Okay.
which comes under the Ministry of Consumer Affairs.
Mhm.
So it has been recognized. They have a self-regulation code as well. So they
Okay.
have a code on what can be done, what should not be done. Some people also refer to them as watchdog for these type of offenses or defaults. Okay, so basically it is an association which can regulate these type of advertisers or these type of companies which make these, or agencies which make these type of advertisements.
Okay.
Okay, so some people can go and complain there, and the second step would be to go to a consumer court.
Okay. Now, before we conclude our this discussion, what do you feel? How much is the scope for a young lawyer in this particular practice of media law as such?
So there is huge scope, because media law, as in there are various modes and mediums of of media dissemination or dissemination of works, as they call it under the Copyright Act. Okay, so um, and it is ever growing, technology is ever growing. Okay, and so the issues also are ever growing. For example, sometime back, satellite was the major mode of dissemination of content. Okay, as of today we have so many uh, modes which are run on the internet. Okay, so these laws also related to the internet are ever evolving.
Correct.
Right, so obviously with evolving laws there is more and more scope for lawyers. Okay,
Okay.
so anyways there was always scope in this field. Okay,
Correct.
but with all these advances in technology and these evolvements, it is growing, it is a very interesting field. And secondly, now the platform has become global.
Correct.
Earlier, there was the days of Doordarshan and all of that when we were very young. So at that time, the only scope was very limited to satellite and to this, and the feed was also very territory specific. As of now, you put one small song on the on YouTube, just release it on YouTube, the entire world can watch it in a matter of seconds.
Correct.
Okay, or if not instantaneously. So obviously, as technology is growing, as uh, modes and mediums are growing, okay, there is syndication of content happening. First it is shown on one mode, and then it goes to others, it goes across the world. So it's ever growing, and there is huge scope, there is, and luckily the scope is growing, you know.
Okay. So that
So
means now we can conclude that to that there is a good scope in media laws and young lawyers should attempt to enter into this particular field.
Yes, because like I said that, I mean, when I say growing, I don't mean that it's not existing and now it's evolving. It's already existing.
Correct.
There is a strong base which is already there, and there is a lot to look forward to.
Okay.
So yes, definitely young lawyers should come into this field, and they have, like they say, the world is our playground. Okay, so in this field really the world is our playground. I myself have done arbitrations in Europe, in US, and uh, in a lot of different jurisdictions around the world. And the only reason for that is that IP is something which is, it is similar if not the same almost globally.
Okay. Uh, Madam, first of all, thank you very much. And now this is a
My
small
pleasure.
memento
Thank
from
you.
our side
Thank you.
to you. Thank you very much for giving your valuable time.
Thank you.